Welcome back to Infinite Stories, the tool I've created to, well, as the name suggests, create infinite stories. And I've talked about the tool a little bit in the previous videos and the designer, so if you're wondering why it looks different from a previous view, please check out the video. In this one, I thought it might be good to just read a story or create one as we go. So let's start a new story, and I've actually asked AI to create and some options for me, and this one I personally liked quite a bit. So the name is called Downstairs, and the short description is a family moves into a Victorian home and finds a locked basement door that no key can open. When it finally does, every night becomes a battle to survive whatever lives in the dark beneath the floorboards. The story follows Elise, the youngest in the family of four. And I think this is a horror story, and we're going for young adults, and the tone of voice should be dark, in my opinion. So let's create it and see what we get. So, the first chapter and how we start. The old Victorian house loomed, its darkened windows like vacant eyes staring into the twilight. Elise clutched her mother's hand, the worn wood of the banister cool beneath her own small fingers. Dust mote danced in the faint shafts of light piercing the gloom, a silent testament to years of neglect. A heavy, ornate door, unlike any other in the house, was set into the wall at the end of the hall. It was locked, stubbornly so, and no key they possessed seemed to fit its ancient tumblers. Her father, usually so confident, had finally given up, muttering about it being a relic of the previous owners. A chill, unrelated to the evening air, snaked down Elise's spine as she stared at the dark wood, a sense of unease settling deep within her. Great start, in my opinion. Two options. I try the doorknob again. I ask my brother about the door. And I think with these two we can start. So I think in her shoes I would just try it again, right? So let's go here and try to figure it out. With a surge of defiance, Elise tugged at the cold, unyielding metal of the doorknob. It refused to budge, just as it had before. She pressed her ear against the dark wood, listening intently, but heard only a faint echo of her own heartbeat. A whisper, like dry leaves skittering across the floor, seemed to emanate from the other side, too faint to be deciphered. Her mother called her name, a worried tremor in her voice, but Elise remained transfixed by the door. It felt as if the house itself held its breath, waiting for something. A faint, almost imperceptible vibration pulsed through the door beneath her feet, a subtle thrumming that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Well, I kick the door hard, or I run back to my parents. And Elise feels a little bit like someone who would like to try out more on her own. So I think I kick the door hard. And the heavy oak of the door shuddered under Elise's forceful kick, a deep groan echoing through the silent hall. For a terrifying moment, nothing else happened. She almost convinced herself she'd imagined this slight give. Then, splintering cracks split the air, followed by a scraping sound as the door began to inch inwards, revealing not darkness, but swirling violet mist. A smell like damp earth and something acrid sweet wafted out, making Elise gag. Mother gasp was sharp, and the faint thrumming beneath her feet intensified, a rhythmic pulsing beat It seemed to draw her in. The mist pulsed, almost as if breathing, and Elise felt an irresistible pull towards its strange, ethereal glow. Well, I could step into the mist, but this feels a bit scary for me, so I would run back down the hall. Panic surged through Elise, and she scrambled backwards, her small boots skidding on the dusty floorboards. The violet mist seemed to stretch, tendrils reaching out like grasping fingers, and the rhythmic pulsing intensified, a siren call that was both terrifying and alluring. The mother screamed, a raw sound of pure terror, and grabbed for Elise's arm, pulling her away from the encroaching luminescence. Behind them, the heavy ornate door groaned again, as if a great beast was stirring within. The scent of damp earth and that cloying sweetness filled the air, thick and suffocating, making it difficult to breathe. The thrumming was no longer just beneath their feet, vibrated in their every bone, a primal rhythm of something ancient and hungry. Oh, I like it. I do like it. And while I would run upstairs, I think a look back does not hurt, does it? Alright, chapter 4. And we can see that something happens with the some of the text, so let's ignore that and continue. Elise whisked a glance over her shoulder. The violet mist had retreated, leaving the ornate door once more a solid, unyielding barrier. The thrumming had subsided to a faint, unsettling hum, like a distant trapped engine. Her mother's grip on her arm was iron, her knuckles white against Elise's skin. Father, his face a mask of bewildered fear, stumbled backwards, eyes wide and fixed on the door, as if expecting it to lunge at them. The air still held the faint, sickly sweet scent, a phantom reminder of the brief, terrifying glimpse into what lay beyond. Elise felt a profound sense of loss, a strange yearning for the swirling colors and the compelling rhythm mixed with the ice dread of what that place truly was. I asked my mother what was behind the door. I tell father we need to leave the house. I think it's time to talk with Dad. We have to leave, Daddy. Elise's voice trembled high and thin in the oppressive silence of the hall. Her father's gaze snapped from the door to his daughter, his eyes holding a dawning horror that mirrored her own. Her mother let out a shaky breath, her grip loosening on Elise's arm, though her body remained tense and ready to flee. The house seemed to sigh around them, a soft creaking sound that could have been the old wood settling, or something else entirely. The lingering scent of damp earth, that strange sweet perfume still hung in the air, a constant chilling reminder of the impossible thing they had witnessed. Elise tugging at her father's sleeve, willing him to understand the primal terror that was screaming at her to run. Well, we can pack our bags and flee immediately, but I think it should be an investigation of what's behind the door. The house seemed to exhale, the air growing heavy and cloying. Her father, his face pale and drawn, nodded slowly, his voice a rough whisper. "You're right, Elise. We should go." He didn't move immediately, his eyes still darting nervously towards the end of the hall as if expecting the ornate door to swing open once more. Her mother, a hand now clasping tightly around Elise, pulled her gently toward the grand staircase. Each step they took creaked ominous, amplifying the deafening silence that had fallen. The house felt alive, watching their every move, a predator patiently waiting for them to stumble. Elise stole one last glance back, the memory of the violent mist, a burning image behind her eyelids. We go upstairs to pack, we run out of the house. I don't like these options. So let's go with, well, this one is fine. We go upstairs to pack, but let's try we go back down and try to open the door once more. And there's the new choice. So we'll continue this path. It's generated. The family found themselves drawn back to the oppressive silence at the end of the hall. The ornate door stood as it had before, a dark, inscrutable sentinel. Elise's father, his shoulders slumped, with a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion, reached for the cold metal knob. This time, however, as his fingers brushed against it, the knob gave a faint click. The door, as if acknowledging their return, swung inward, with a slow, almost reluctant creak, revealing not mist, but a steep, narrow staircase, descending into absolute darkness. A damp, earthy smell laced with something metallic, faintly sweet, rose to meet them, thicker and more potent than before. Elise's mother whispered softly, clutching a tarnished silver locket, its surface suddenly feeling cold against her palm. I descend the stairs first, or I ask my father to check for traps. And I descend the stairs first, and let's ensure that the door closes behind Elise. And let's generate that. The darkness below was an oppressive blanket swallowing the faint light from the hallway. Elise, her heart hammering against her ribs, like a trapped bird, took the first step onto the creaking stair. The wood groaned a protest beneath her small weight, each sound amplified in the suffocating silence. As her foot landed on the second step, the heavy door behind her slammed shut with a deafening boom, plunging her into utter blackness. A wave of the strange, sweet scent, now tinged with something metallic, washed over her, stealing her breath. She heard her mother's muffled cry from the other side, a desperate sound that echoed her own rising panic. And we continue with I call out. No? Well, yes, let's call out to the parents. The darkness was absolute, a physical weight pressed in on Elise. Her voice, when she finally found it, was a thin thread of sound lost in the void. Mom? Dad? The words were barely a whisper, swallowed by the oppressive air. She strained her ears, listening for any response, any sign that her family was still on the other side, the now impenetrable door. The metallic, sickly sweetening scent intensified, making her stomach churn. Faint, scuttling sound, like dry leaves skittering across stone, echoed from somewhere far below, sending a fresh wave of ice through her veins. She squeezed her eyes shut, whispering for the light, for anything but the suffocating blackness. And I think this is a great place to stop, because I of course want you leave you wanting for more. I had a lot of fun, and if you're interested in these types of videos, don't hesitate to tell me, because they can be very easily created, and I love to just explore what's possible with the tool. So don't hesitate to comment. I'm looking forward to every single one of them. Bye!